ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ, ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਪਾਵਨ ਬਾਣੀ ਜਿਨ ਪਟ ਅੰਦਰ ਬਾਹਰ ਗੁੱਦੜ ਤੇ ਭਲੇ ਸੰਸਾਰ। These beautiful words of Guru Nanak Dev Ji। ਜਦੋਂ ਵੀ ਮੈਂ ਇਸ ਸ਼ਬਦਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਰਵਣ ਕਰਨਾ, whenever I would hear these words of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, ਮੇਰਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮਨ ਸੀ ਨਾ ਮਹਾਂਪੁਰਖਾਂ ਦੇ ਚਰਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਚੱਲ ਜਾਣਾ। My mind would go into the feet of a great being. That's what Mahapurkh means, of a great saint. ਇਹ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਦੇ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਕੀ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ? What are these words of Guru Nanak Dev Ji Paatshah Ji saying? They're saying ਜਿਨ ਪੱਟ ਅੰਦਰ, ਪੱਟ translates to silk। ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਪੱਟ ਆ। ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ saying those that have got silk inside of them। ਜਿਨ ਪੱਟ ਅੰਦਰ ਬਾਹਰ ਗੁੱਦੜ। ਗੁੱਦੜ translates to coarse, a rough material। ਤਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ those that have got silk inside of them but may be coarse from the outside। ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਤੇ ਭਲੇ ਸੰਸਾਰ। ਕਹਿੰਦੇ they are the true ones। ਭਲੇ literally translates to good। ਸੰਸਾਰ means world। They are the good ones in this world। ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ, here ਭਲੇ we will translate to a saint। They are the true saints of this world। Those that have got silk। Silk? What silk? Silk meaning, ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ, that pureness from inside, whose hearts are filled with love। ਇੱਥੇ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ ਪੱਟ ਦਾ ਭਾਵ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਹਿਰਦਾ ਪ੍ਰੇਮ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਭਰਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਹਿਰਦਾ ਦਇਆ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਭਰਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ। ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ ਪੱਟ ਦਾ ਇੱਥੇ ਭਾਵ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਅੰਦਰ ਸ਼ੁੱਧ ਆ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਅੰਦਰ ਪਵਿੱਤਰ ਆ। Those hearts that are pure from inside। ਬਾਹਰ ਗੁੱਦੜ, ਪਰ ਬਾਹਰੋਂ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਉਹ ਬੋਲਦੇ ਨੇ, ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਭਾਵ ਇੰਝ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕੁਝ ਕੌੜਾਪਨ ਆ। Meaning they might not be so well educated in the worldly sense। The way they put their words together might not be so perfect। The grammar might not be there, or however we want to look at that। In the way they word something may not be perfect। But Satguru Ji saying, ਪਰ ਉਹ ਅਸਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਅੰਦਰੋਂ ਪ੍ਰੇਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਬੋਲਦੇ ਨੇ, ਅਸਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹੀ ਸੰਤ ਨੇ, ਉਹੀ ਸ਼ੁੱਧ ਨੇ। ਕਹਿੰਦੇ but they are the true saints in this world। ਕਿਹੜੇ ਮਹਾਂਪੁਰਖਾਂ ਦੀ ਮੈਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦਾ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ? ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਿਆਰ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਬਾਈ ਜੀ ਆਖਿਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਸੀ। ਬਾਈ literally means brother। ਬਾਈ ਜੀ, ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ, ਸੰਤ ਬਾਬਾ ਗੱਜਨ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ। My mind would go into their feet when I'd hear these words। Because Paatshah is saying, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਤਿੰਨ ਨਿਹੁ ਲੱਗਾ ਰੱਬ ਸੇਤੀ। They are the ones that have got true love with God। ਦੇਖਣੇ ਵਿਚਾਰ, they are the ones that are truly constantly seeing God। They are the ones that are truly ਵਿਚਾਰ contemplating God। ਅਸਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹ ਨੇ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਅਸਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਰੱਬ ਨੂੰ ਵੇਖਦੇ ਨੇ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਅੰਦਰ ਪ੍ਰੇਮ ਨਾਲ ਭਰਿਆ ਪਿਆ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਅੰਦਰੋਂ ਰੱਬ ਨਾਲ ਪਿਆਰ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ ਰੰਗ ਹੱਸੇ, ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਜਦੋਂ ਹੱਸਦੇ ਵੀ ਨੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਰੰਗ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੱਸਦੇ ਨੇ, ਉਸ ਪਰਮੇਸ਼ਰ ਦੇ ਰੰਗ ਵਿੱਚ, ਭਾਵ ਪਰਮੇਸ਼ਰ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੇਮ ਵਿੱਚ। when they even laugh, they laugh in the color of love। ਰੰਗ ਰੋਬ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਰੋਂਦੇ ਵੀ ਉਹਦੇ ਪਿਆਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ। when they cry in the love of that one। ਚੁੱਪ ਭੀ ਕਰ ਜਾਏ, ਜਦੋਂ ਚੁੱਪ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਜਦੋਂ ਚੁੱਪ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਉਦੋਂ ਵੀ ਉਹਦੇ ਪਿਆਰ ਵਿੱਚ। when they go silent, it's in the love of that one as well। ਪਰਵਾਹ ਨਾ ਹੀ ਕਿਸੇ ਕੇਰੀ, but then they care free as well of what the world thinks, of not having to please the world। ਪਰਵਾਹ ਨਾ ਹੀ ਕਿਸੇ ਕੇਰੀ। ਕਈਆਂ ਨੇ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀਗੀ ਕਿ ਕੁਝ ਬਾਈ ਜੀ ਬਾਪ ਤੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਸਾਖੀਆਂ ਸਾਂਝੀਆਂ ਕਰੋ। ਕਹਿੰਦੇ some people, ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ, many people said to me, share some ਸਾਖੀਆਂ of ਬਾਈ ਜੀ। and ਬਹੁਤ ਡਰ ਆ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ ਮਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਾਈ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਬਚਨ ਸਾਂਝੇ ਕਰਨੇ, ਬਾਈ ਜੀ ਬਾਬਤ ਬੋਲਣਾ। Mind is trembling to speak about ਬਾਈ ਜੀ। But why did I decide to accept this? And the reason for that is because I didn't want anyone to ever think that I've ever been able to do katha because of my own efforts or because of my own skill or quality or anything, however you want to word it. It's not anything to do with any of that. It's because of what Bhaiji put into my choli. Choli, Sangat ji, I always think about this word. There's no actual perfect word of how to explain and describe choli. Choli, you can describe it as it's like a begging bowl, or you can describe it as the begging bowl of this heart. And I'll share with you in this video today of how this all came about. It was in 1997 when I was 16 years old, Sangat ji, when first got to do Sangat of Bhaiji. After doing Sangat with Bhaiji, the year 2000, I'd gone to India and spent 2.5 months there. And in the videos that will come after this, I'll cover some of the things that what happened when I first got to do Sangat with Bhaiji in 97. But in this video I want to share with you what happened in the year 2000. I'd spent 2.5 months in India and I came back. I came back in the month of November, if I can remember correctly. And at that time I was 19. And when I came back, the Purnamashi that fell, which would have been in December, Langar Hall was full of Sangat. And I was in the Langar Hall, and amongst all this Sangat, Bhaiji called me, and they called me forward towards them, and I was standing, and I wasn't quite sat down, wasn't standing straight up, but standing kind of, leaning forward with my hands folded together, and Bhaiji was sitting on the floor in the Langar Hall and looking up. But it was almost like they were looking at me but through me as well. And they just started reeling off and talking. And it's like these words just were coming from another realm. And at this time in year 2000, remember, it weren't the days of YouTube, it was before these days. It wasn't common at all for people to be doing katha in English. I didn't really know of anyone other than Satkaryog, respected Bhadir Singh ji. And Bhaiji started to speak and say that. They said, "Tusi vi katha karya karunge, tusi vi bolya karunge." They said, "You will speak and deliver discourses as well." Kehte tusi stagean te bolya karunge, you will speak on stages. Tusi sare paase jaunge, duniya bhar jaake, you will go in other parts of the world and speak. And at that time, like doing katha for someone of, like I said, back in those days in English, of someone that's born and bred in this country in England, like it was just not something you would think of. Again, came from, it was an ardas that I did whilst I was in India. I stood before Guru Granth Sahib Ji and I said, "Satguru Ji Paatshah, kuj na kuj soji baksho aap ji de pavan pitra bani di. Give some level, something, even anything, a little understanding of your bani, of your divine words." And this ardas I did internally in front of Guru Granth Sahib Ji and Bhaiji. As I've come back from India a few weeks later, so they were just reeling off that you will speak on stages, you will travel the world. Kehinde jiਵੇਂ Bahadur Singh Ji bolde ne, just as Bahadur Singh Ji speaks. Sakhiyan sanaya karunge, you'll tell the stories of the Gurus. And they said, "Tusi inj karo, pothi la jo kare, Tika Sahib, the Faridkot Tika di, tusi pothi la jo kare, unu tusi pado." They said, "Take home the pothi," so it's a part of the translations of Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Sangat ji, I was just because it was just so kind of far from me, I took it home and I didn't really know what to do with it, because it's the language that it's translated in, even though it's written in Gurmukhi script, but it's mostly in Hindi. So, and in Nanaksar, the Tika Sahib Katha is done every day. So it's read out, which are the translations of Gurbani, read out every day at 4:30. And in those days it would be for 45 minutes, but it's for a slightly extended time now. And it would be done and sung in a very particular tune, and the way they would read it out. So even the Hindi translation, because I didn't understand it at all at that time, I went home and I thought I had to learn the tune that they would sing it in. So I went home, so for example, like whatever tune they sing it in and say it in, I started to try and sing it and learn it in that tune. And it just got left there. Then I tried it a few times and it just got left there, and then I didn't really come back to it because I didn't understand even the translation of it at that time. And I had forgotten about that. It's almost like that it was completely gone out of my memory that Bhaiji had said those words to me, and that they told me to even take the Tika Sahib home. And then I remember literally it was like 10 years later from that time. It was probably, I would say, Sangat Ji, so no, it was about 8 to 9 years after that time, I had this urge inside of me to want to understand Gurbani even more than the few words that I could understand. So I went crazy trying to look for translations on the internet. I didn't know what I was doing. I just started searching, reading different translations, whatever I could find online. And that time, the website that I came across was gurbani.org. I didn't know who to ask and speak to. Whatever I could come across, just started learning, and would try and find and ask whatever I couldn't understand. But I always had this shauq, this passion to read in Punjabi. And it was 10 years later, I remember being in Newcastle, going with some sangat, and it just happened like kind of suddenly. It was Bhai Amardeep Singh from Derby who passed me this mic when I attended this camp, and he said, look, tell the Sakhi of Bhai Taru Singh. And passionately I started telling the Sakhi of Bhai Taru Singh, and in that very moment, it was like the penny dropped. In that very moment, it was like something happened, and those words of Bhaiji, which at that time was then 10 years later, came rushing back to me, that they said these words to me 10 years ago, that I'd be traveling. I was how many ever miles away from home, 200 odd miles away from home, standing there in a Gurdwara Sahib telling a story, and it wasn't planned for me to go there and do that, but it happened. And I remembered that this is the gift that they gave. They knew the power that they had in giving, it was just, there's no words to describe it.